Scandinavia is not just the north, it is the true magic of ice, forests, fjords, and shining skies. It is a land where nature is not just beautiful, it feels like a living, breathing being, full of ancient power and mystery. In this video, we will go on a leisurely but exciting journey through the most amazing natural wonders of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. You are waiting for places where the primordial silence reigns, broken only by the rustling of the wind in the crowns of trees, the sound of waterfalls, or the cries of seagulls. Here nature seems frozen in time, preserving its wild, untouched beauty, and where every tree, every rock, every lake breathes legends of trolls, forest spirits, and ancient gods. Geiranger Fjord, Norway is one of the most famous and certainly the most picturesque fjords in the world, rightly included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Its steep, almost vertical slopes, going deep into the emerald blue water, are covered with dense forests and dozens of noisy waterfalls tumble down the steep cliffs. The water below is a striking, deep blue or greenish color, changing depending on the weather and depth. The fjord is especially famous for its two iconic waterfalls, the Seven Sisters, which flow down one side in a thin veil, and the lonely and powerful Bridegroom Falls opposite them. In the calm waters of the fjord, you can often see sea eagles soaring majestically overhead, playful seals sticking out their curious faces, and sometimes dolphins accompanying the boats. Pleasure boats and impressive cruise liners ply the fjord, offering spectacular views of cliffs, waterfalls, and abandoned farms clinging to tiny flat areas high on the slopes. The smell of seawater mingles here with the scent of pine needles and the freshness from the spray of waterfalls. This place is ideal for those seeking northern beauty at its most dramatic, majestic, and easily accessible. The feeling of utter insignificance in front of these giant rocks and deep water is mesmerizing. The Lofoten Islands, Norway, is a wild archipelago above the Arctic Circle where nature seems especially raw and untouched, with dramatic jagged mountains rising suddenly out of the sea and turquoise, almost tropical-looking water by the sandy beaches. The islands are famous for their authentic fishing villages with bright red wooden huts, Rorbu, built directly on stilts over the water, where cod is still dried on wooden frames. In winter, from September to April, this is one of the best places in the world to see the northern lights, which dance in the sky in green, purple, and pink sparks, reflected in the dark water. In summer, the white nights reign here, when the sun does not go below the horizon, coloring the landscape in delicate golden and pink tones. The landscapes of Lofoten are a unique combination of high, sharp peaks, snowfields even in summer, white sandy beaches despite the cold climate, and calm, sheltered bays. The local nature remains almost untouched and surprises with its purity and diversity. It's a paradise for photographers seeking to capture the incredible light and contrast, climbers finding challenges on the steep cliffs, and simply dreamers seeking solitude and beauty at the edge of the earth. The sound of screaming seagulls, the rustle of the waves on the beach, the creak of wood on the old piers all create a unique atmosphere. Jotunheimen National Park, Norway, House of Giants in Norwegian, and this name fully justifies itself. This is the heart of the Norwegian Alps, where the highest and most powerful peaks of the country are gathered. Mount Galdhøpiggen, the highest point in all of Scandinavia, is located here. The park offers dozens of kilometers of carefully designed hiking trails, from easy walks in the valleys to difficult mountaineering ascents to the peaks. In summer, the high mountain meadows come alive with sheep grazing with jingling bells and majestic mountain reindeer. Deep, rugged valleys, glacial lakes with water of incredible blue color, shining in the sun, and snowy peaks that do not melt all year round create a harsh but incredibly fascinating and inspiring atmosphere. The smell of alpine herbs, the cold wind off the glaciers, and the freshness of the mountain air fill the lungs. This is an ideal place for those who love active vacations, endurance tests, and absolute high mountain silence, broken only by wind noise and bird cries. Gravel or snow crunching underfoot, and the rumble of an invisible waterfall can be heard in the distance. Briksdal Glacier, Norway, is an impressive tongue of ice that winds its way down from the huge Jostedalsbreen Glacier, the largest in continental Europe. It is surprisingly accessible. On a well-equipped trail, you can walk almost to the foot of the glacier and feel the cold breath of the ice. The glacier impresses with its intense bluish or turquoise glow, which seems unearthly. In summer, the glacier is alive with incredibly green, lush vegetation and wildflowers blooming, creating a stunning contrast to the cold, sparkling ice. Many waterfalls and noisy rivers fed by glacial meltwater make this place particularly picturesque and dynamic. You can walk to the foot of the glacier along a trail to admire the views or take a ride on special horse-drawn carts, which adds to the romance. It is one of the most visited glaciers in Europe, and for good reason. The sound of gurgling meltwater, the crackling of ice in the distance, the fresh cold air, the smell of wet earth and greenery, all this creates a unique sensory experience. Prekestulen, Preacher's Pulpit, Norway, perhaps the most photographed rock in Norway, which is a huge, almost perfectly flat granite ledge, about 600 meters above the dark waters of Lysfjord. From the top of this natural pulpit opens one of the most spectacular and recognizable views in the world. The vast expanse of the fjord, the steep rock walls going into the misty haze, and the mountain ranges disappearing on the horizon. The path to the cliff, about 4 kilometers long one way, takes about 2 hours and passes through a variety of landscapes. Coniferous forests, boggy areas, you have to walk on wooden decks, rocky climbs past small lakes reflecting the sky. This place has become a true legend among travelers and a symbol of Norway's wild majesty, combining a physical challenge with an incredible aesthetic reward. Tourists often sit on the edge of the cliff, fearlessly dangling their legs over the abyss, footage that has become iconic on social media, even though it's not safe. Prekestolen is a combination of adrenaline, especially at the edge, and absolute peace at dizzying heights. The platform at the top is really strikingly flat and without any guardrails, which adds to the experience and the thrill. The view from it covers a huge expanse, mountains, fjord, and sky merging into one epic picture. The way up is not just a road, but part of an adventure, with lakes, panoramic views, and encounters with other travelers. This place has become an icon of Norwegian tourism and is often used in movies and commercials. Here it is easy to feel tiny in front of the power of nature, yet experience a sense of immense freedom on top of the world. The sound of the wind at altitude, the silence, and the feeling of cold from the altitude all add to the drama. Voringfossen Waterfall, Norway is one of Norway's highest and most powerful waterfalls, plunging down from a height of almost 180 meters into the picturesque Maba Valley. The waterfall is located in a deep, rugged gorge surrounded by majestic cliffs covered with lush greenery in summer. There are convenient viewing platforms and suspension bridges, some brand new with glass elements, with breathtaking, sometimes frightening views directly over the falling water and the deep abyss below. The place is especially beautiful in spring and early summer, when the snowy peaks melt and the volume of water is at its maximum, making the waterfall incredibly powerful and roaring. Here you can constantly hear the powerful roar of falling water that fills everything around you, and feel the damp, cold wind from the tiny splashes rising upwards in a cloud of mist. This is one of those places where nature is literally breathtaking in its pristine power and beauty. The smell of wet stones, the freshness of the water, and the constant noise of the waterfall create an unforgettable, slightly overwhelming yet delightful experience. Sogne Fjord, Norway, known as the King of the Fjords, it is the longest, over 200 kilometers, and deepest, up to 1,300 meters in a fjord in Europe. A real labyrinth of water and rocks. Its enormous size and depth are awe-inspiring. Along the fjord's rugged shores are old Norwegian villages with traditional wooden houses and centuries-old churches, as well as green orchards, especially beautiful in bloom in spring. The fjord is surrounded by majestic glaciers from which cold streams of meltwater flow, rushing waterfalls and high mountains whose slopes plunge straight into the dark water. From here you can travel to the Nygardsbreen Glacier. Lake Mjøsa, Norway, is Norway's largest lake, located in the relatively flat central part of the country, which makes its scenery softer compared to the harsh fjords. The water here is surprisingly clear and calm, especially in windless weather, turning the surface into a huge mirror, reflecting the blue sky and green hills around. Along the shores are cozy coastal towns with picturesque wooden houses and old marinas. In summer, the lake comes alive. Locals and tourists relax, swim in the water, which warms up to a comfortable temperature for swimming. Go boating and fish. The lake reflects the sky, clouds and mountains seen in the distance, creating mirrored landscapes of incredible beauty. The smell of fresh water, the sound of waves splashing against the shore, or the noise of a boat engine. All this creates the atmosphere of a quiet summer vacation in nature. Romsdalen Valley, Norway, is a deep, rugged valley between steep cliffs and the turbulent Rama River, known for its clear water and rapids. It is home to the famous Trollstigen Road, the Troll's Ladder, a mountain serpentine with 11 steep, sharp turns and dizzying views that is itself a marvel of engineering and nature. The mountains on both sides of the valley rise almost vertically, forming majestic rock walls up to 1,000 meters high, where birds of prey nest. The Raumabanen Scenic Railroad runs through the valley, offering stunning views. This is one of the best places in Norway for outdoor activities. Hiking along the many trails, climbing on steep walls, and biking along the river. The scenery is rugged, dramatic, and incredibly photogenic, reminiscent of ancient times when, according to legend, trolls lived here. The sound of the rushing river, the echo of the rocks, the rustle of the wind all filled the valley. Mount Galdhøpiggen. Norway is the highest point not only in Norway but also in the whole Scandinavia, reaching 2,469 meters. Despite its impressive height and the presence of glaciers even at the summit, Mount Galdhøpiggen is a symbol of Norwegian mountaineering, national pride and aspiration to the summits. To stand on its summit means to be on the very roof of the north, above the clouds, feeling the cold, clean air and the majesty of the surrounding world. The creaking of snow under your feet, the sound of wind at altitude, silence and the feeling of vastness. All this makes the ascent unforgettable. The Blekinge Archipelago, Sweden, is a picturesque archipelago along the southern coast of Sweden with over 1,000 islands and islets. Unlike the harsh Norwegian coastline, the local waters are warmer and calmer, making them ideal for kayaking, sailing, and fishing. The islands are covered in green pine and golden oak forests, and hidden, sandy beaches and quiet coves can be found in between. In summer, the archipelago comes alive and drowns in flowers. Wild apple and pear trees blossom here, creating an almost fairy tale atmosphere. Some villages on the islands have preserved old wooden houses from the 18th century and fishing wharves that are still in use. This place is often called Swedish paradise for a quiet vacation by the sea, where you can enjoy the tranquility, the beauty of nature, and the proximity of the water. The smell of the sea, pine trees and blossoming apple trees, the sound of splashing water, the cries of seagulls. All this creates the atmosphere of an idyllic summer vacation. Sarek National Park, Sweden, is one of the last untouched wild areas of Europe, where there are no roads, no bridges, no civilization, only nature in its pristine form. The park is located in Lapland and is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Laponia. There are more than 200 glaciers, as well as 6 peaks above 2,000 meters. Sarek is considered a dream for experienced climbers and trekkers ready for autonomous treks. The rivers of the Sarek are turbulent and have no bridges. They have to be waded, and the routes require good physical fitness, orienteering, and survival skills. This is a place where you can meet moose, wolverines, lynx, and if you are lucky, even bears in their natural habitat. This is a harsh, powerful, deserted nature, a real Arctic Sweden where man is only a guest. The silence here is absolute, broken only by the sound of wind and the roar of rivers. The smell of moss, jaggle, and cold mountain water fills the air. Lake Siljan, Sweden, is one of the country's most beautiful and unusual lakes, located in the Dalarna region and is believed to have been formed by the fall of a meteorite millions of years ago, creating a circular structure. The surrounding shores are full of picturesque hills, dense forests, and cozy villages with traditional Swedish red wooden houses, falun red paint. Every summer, there are numerous folk festivals, concerts, and traditional celebrations, including the famous Midsummer Summer Solstice Festival, with dancing around the May tree. The water in the lake is amazingly clear and calm, often reflecting white clouds and blue sky, creating mesmerizing mirror-like landscapes. This lake seems to breathe the history, culture, and legends of the ancient Dalit people who have lived here for centuries. Dalarna Forest, Sweden, is a symbol of traditional Sweden, located in the region of the same name, which is considered the heart of Swedish culture and folklore. This region is famous for its dense coniferous, mostly pine and spruce, and deciduous forests, clear lakes, and gentle hills. This is where the famous red wooden horse, the Dalakarli horse, Dalahäst, one of Sweden's main symbols, comes from. In autumn, the Dalarna forest turns into an incredible kaleidoscope of colors. The needles remain green, and the leaves of birch, aspen, and maple trees turn golden, orange, and red, creating picturesque panoramas. Here it is easy to meet wild animals, deer, moose, foxes, hares, rare birds in the silence of nature, disturbed only by the sound of wind in the tree crowns or birdsong. Numerous forest trails lead to old wooden farms, cozy lakes, and babbling brooks. This is the perfect place for quiet walks, hikes, meditation, and finding inspiration amidst unspoiled nature that breathes history. The smell of pine needles, moss, and fallen leaves, the sound of needles and branches creaking underfoot, the sound of wind in the tall fir trees. All this creates the atmosphere of an old Swedish fairy tale. The coastal cliffs of Småland, Sweden, are dramatic, rugged, rocky shores that plunge dramatically into the waters of the Baltic Sea. The Småland coastline is mottled with dark caves, narrow gorges, and powerful granite cliffs protruding into the sea, polished by wind and water. The granite cliffs, often gray or reddish, look imposing against the blue or gray waters of the Baltic. Seabirds nest here, their cries can be heard, and unique species of plants and lichens. Local trails, often marked with paint on stones, pass through coastal pine forests, the smell of pine needles in the sea, and led to secluded, rocky coves where one can find solitude. Nearby are quiet fishing villages that have preserved their authentic atmosphere and rich history connected with the sea. This is one of those places where you can truly feel at one with the sea, its power, unpredictability, and mesmerizing beauty. The sound of waves hitting the rocks, the wind whistling, the cries of seagulls, all this creates a symphony of the sea. The Gulf of Bothnia, Sweden, is the northern part of the Baltic Sea separating Sweden from Finland, with a remarkably tranquil yet rugged and powerful nature. It is home to thousands of archipelagos and islands ranging from large forested islands to tiny rocky islets, many of which are uninhabited and home only to birds and seals. In winter, the northern part of the bay completely freezes over, turning into a vast, snow-white plain that can be traveled on snowmobiles or skis. The water here is relatively cold, but unusually clear and transparent, which allows you to observe the underwater world or marine animals. The coast of the bay is covered with dense pine forests, the smell of pine needles and resin, sand dunes and marshy areas. It is a place of absolute solitude, where the noise of the waves in summer or the crackling of the ice in winter meets the eternal silence of the northern forests, ideal for those seeking tranquility, wildlife, and a sense of spaciousness. The Härdarlen Mountains, Sweden, is a picturesque mountainous region in central Sweden, popular with skiers in winter and tourists in summer. In winter, there are famous ski resorts offering slopes of varying difficulty, and in summer, the mountains become a paradise for hiking on numerous trails, mountain biking and fishing in mountain rivers and lakes. Härdarlen's landscapes include dense coniferous forests at the foot of the mountains, clear lakes and open mountain plateaus covered with low vegetation. In these areas, you can meet reindeer, sea grouse, or ptarmigan. The area retains a strong original culture of the indigenous Sami people, who still practice traditional reindeer husbandry. The Härdarlen Mountains are a lively combination of nature, outdoor activities, sports, and ancient history, where you can feel the spirit of the north and its inhabitants. The sound of wind on the peaks, the sound of forest rivers, the smell of pine needles and moss, all this creates a special atmosphere. The Turku Archipelago, Finland, is one of the world's largest archipelagos, located in southwestern Finland in the Baltic Sea, with more than 20,000 islands and islets ranging from large, inhabited islands to tiny, rocky ones that barely fit a fisherman's hut. Roads, bridges, and numerous ferry crossings connect the islands into a single winding chain, creating a unique tourist archipelago route. The islands have preserved ancient lighthouses, cozy fishing villages with wooden houses and medieval stone or wooden churches. The nature here is milder than in Norway, Coastal forests, meadow flowers in summer, sweet-smelling herbs, calm waters, and endless sea views. In summer, many Finns spend time here in their summer houses, maki, fishing right from the moorings, the smell of fresh fish and seawater, and enjoying the silence. This place seems to be created for leisurely rest, sea adventures, and unity with nature. The splashing of waves against the boat, the cries of seagulls, the creaking of wood on old moorings, all this is part of the soundscape of the archipelago. The Tornio River, Finland, is one of the longest rivers in Finland, which runs for hundreds of kilometers along the border with Sweden. The river is famous as a real fishing paradise, especially for salmon and kumzu in the summer, when fishermen from all over Europe come here. The scenery along the river is an alternation of dense coniferous forests, mysterious bogs, and green pastures. On the banks there are old villages, wooden churches, and fishing huts. In winter, the river completely freezes over, turning into a white plain on which skiers, snowmobilers, and races are organized. It is a place with a deep history connected to the life of the Sami and Finnish peoples, and a strong connection to the culture of northern rivers and fishing. The sound of flowing water in summer, the silence and creaking of snow in winter, the smell of water, forest, and fish. All this is about the Tornio River. The Karina Hills, Finland, is a picturesque, undulating landscape near the city of Turku in southwestern Finland, dotted with forests and fields. There are many hiking and biking trails and lookout points with beautiful views of the surrounding area, and even the Turku archipelago in the distance. In the forests and fields, you can find hares, foxes, and owls. Hear their cries at night. Local farms offer organic products and the possibility to stay overnight. Karina is a great place to enjoy nature without going far from the city, an ideal place for a short rest and recuperation. The smell of the earth, flowers, and cut grass, the sounds of birds and insects all fill the air. Bornholm Island, Denmark is a picturesque island in the Baltic Sea, south of Sweden but belonging to Denmark, with unique nature and charming architecture. Its shores combine dramatic, rocky stretches, especially in the north, wide sandy beaches in the south, and cozy red-roofed fishing villages. Bornholm is famous for its unique 12th century round churches, powerful stone structures that serve not only as temples, but also as fortresses hidden in forests and fields. The interior of the island is covered with dense beech forests, the smell of damp earth and fallen leaves, and meadows. The local culinary specialty, smoked fish, especially herring, which is smoked in traditional smokehouses with a distinctive smoke smell, and the famous Bornholm marzipan make for a particularly memorable vacation. This place attracts artists, thanks to the special light, cyclists, thanks to the well-developed network of bicycle paths, and those looking for tranquility, beauty, and delicious experiences away from the hustle and bustle. The sound of the waves, the cries of seagulls, the smell of smoked fish. That's Bornholm. The beaches of Skagen, Denmark, are the northernmost point of mainland Denmark, a place of unique natural encounter where the waters of two seas, the North Sea, Skagerrak, and the Baltic Sea, Kattegat, collide but do not mix completely due to their different densities. The water here is often a different color on each side, forming a rare and mesmerizing sight, especially visible from the sandy spit of Grennen. The vast golden dunes, endless sandy beach, and constant winds create an atmosphere of wildness, spaciousness, and freedom. Skagen was a favorite destination for 19th century Danish painters, Skagen painters, who came here inspired by the special, soft northern light. The local houses with bright yellow walls, red roofs, and white carved decorations give the village a unique fairy tale charm. It is one of the few places in Europe where you can literally stand between two seas, feeling their different energies and hearing the sound of their colliding waves, the smell of salty wind, sand, and sea, the wind whistling in the dunes. It's all about Skagen. The White Cliffs of Mon, Denmark are impressive, dazzling white chalk cliffs rising up to 128 meters above the emerald blue waters of the Baltic Sea. The cliffs were formed over millions of years from the remains of marine microorganisms deposited at the bottom of the ancient sea. They glow white in the sun and contrast sharply with the deep water below in the green forest at the top. At the top of the cliffs, there are dense beech forests, the smell of damp earth and beech leaves, with scenic hiking trails with views of the sea. Narrow wooden stairs lead down to the rocky beaches at the bottom, which are a great place to look for fossils, ammonites, belemnites, and other ancient sea creatures. Mun is one of the most photogenic places in Denmark, a real natural symbol of the country and a geological monument. The sound of the waves at the foot, the wind whistling at the top, the smell of chalk, salt, and forest, all this creates a unique atmosphere. Læsø Island, Denmark is a rare, unique natural corner located in the Kattegat Strait with a special atmosphere and a rich history associated with salt culture. Locals have been extracting sea salt for centuries, using ancient methods of evaporating seawater in special furnaces, and this tradition is still alive, the smell of smoke and salt. The island is home to rare coastal pine trees, twisted and adapted to the strong winds and saltwater. Læsø's scenery is a mixture of green meadows, mysterious marshes, golden dunes, and sparse pine forests. The water around the island is shallow and warms up well in summer, making it ideal for vacationing with children and swimming. The island retains an atmosphere of antiquity, silence, and unspoiled nature. The perfect place for those looking for a complete reboot in solitude. The sound of wind in the pine trees, the smell of salt and smoke from smokehouses, the cries of birds over the marshes. All this is about Læsø. Vadensee National Park, Denmark, is part of the world's largest tidal ecosystem, located along the North Sea coast in Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands. It is an area where land and sea constantly shift in the rhythm of the tides, creating unique landscapes, vast shoals, mudflats, narrow channels. The park is a vital stopping and feeding place for millions of migratory birds making their annual migrations, and their cries fill the air. At low tide, you can take a unique walk directly on the seabed, the feeling of soft mud under your feet, observing the life of marine worms, mussels, crabs, and other small creatures. It is home to a unique subspecies of seals and many waterfowl. Vadensee is a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its outstanding ecosystem value. The smell of the sea, silt, and algae, the sound of the wind, the cries of birds, the sound of water splashing at high tide. All of this is characteristic of Vadensee. The Møllehøje Hills, Denmark, are the highest point of mainland Denmark, reaching a modest 170.86 meters above sea level, located in the picturesque region of Jutland. Despite their height, which seems quite small compared to the Norwegian mountains, the hills rise gently above endless green meadows and dense forests, making them prominent in the landscape. The summit offers panoramic views of the classic Danish countryside, fields, farms, woodlands, especially beautiful in spring and summer when everything is drenched in greenery and flowers. The place is popular among tourists and school trips as the top of Denmark, and it is not difficult to conquer it. There are old farms, cozy villages, and calm pastoral landscapes radiating peace and tranquility all around. It is a symbol of how even a small upland area can be meaningful and beloved to a nation. The smell of freshly cut grass or wildflowers, the sounds of rural life in the distance, the sound of wind on the summit, all this creates the atmosphere of the Danish countryside. Lake Aarhus, Denmark, is the largest freshwater lake in Denmark, located in the north of Zealand, the island where Copenhagen is located. Its shores are rich in bird nesting sites and dense thickets of reeds and reeds. It is home to many rare birds, including graceful herons, a variety of ducks, swans, and the majestic white-tailed eagle. The water in the lake is fresh, and fishing is allowed in special areas. Smell fresh fish and tuna. Nearby, you can take a historic train ride on the scenic narrow-gauge railroad that runs along the lakeshore. Aarhus is an ideal place for birdwatching. Leisurely walks along the shores and enjoying the tranquility of nature. The sounds of frogs croaking, rustling reeds in the wind, and the cries of birds all create the special atmosphere of a marsh lake. The Rabjerg Mela Dunes, Denmark, is a huge, spectacular moving sand dune located in northern Jutland near Skagen. It is the largest such landscape in northern Europe. Under the influence of constant winds, the dune moves about 15 meters eastward every year, swallowing up forests, roads, and even buildings along the way. The landscape around the dune resembles a true desert, a vast sea of golden sand amidst the green landscapes of Denmark. Hidden under the sand are the remains of forests and old roads, gradually being swallowed up by the moving element. Tussø National Park, Denmark, is one of the country's newest and most diverse natural parks, located in the west of Zealand. It encompasses Lake Tussø, the largest freshwater lake on the island of Zealand. The park combines extensive farmland, mysterious marshes, dense forests, and picturesque lakeside areas. The park is very popular with birdwatchers for its rich bird life. Rare ospreys, graceful cranes, and a variety of duck species nest here. Well-equipped hiking and biking trails allow you to explore the area in depth, passing through different landscapes. It is a place where you can experience the balance between wildlife and traditional Danish life. Sea fields being cultivated next to untouched forests and marshes. The smell of fresh earth, water, forest, and the sounds of birds all create the atmosphere of the park. The coastal cliffs of Stevens Klint, Denmark, are spectacular. White chalk cliffs jutting straight into the waters of the Baltic Sea in eastern Zealand. These are not just beautiful cliffs, but a geological monument of world importance, included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. It preserves a unique layer of fish clay, a thin layer of Cretaceous rock that is the clear geological boundary of the extinction of the dinosaurs about 66 million years ago, as a result of a meteorite impact. The cliffs drop abruptly and dramatically into the sea, creating a spectacular sight. At the top of the cliff stands Høyerup Old Church, part of which has already collapsed into the water due to coastal erosion. Local museums and exhibitions detail the importance of the site in science and earth history. Stevens Klint is a unique geologic heritage that allows you to literally touch the boundary of eras. The sound of the waves at the foot, the whistling of the wind at the top, the smell of chalk, salt, and sea. All this creates a special atmosphere of this place. Northern Lights in Tromsø. Hardanger Fjord, Norway, known as the Orchard of Norway, it is the fourth longest fjord in the world and one of the most picturesque in Europe, located in the southwestern part of Norway. In spring, its shores turn into a real garden of paradise. Thousands of apple, cherry, and plum trees drown in pink and white blossoms, creating an incredible contrast with the blue water of the fjord and snow-capped mountaintops. This is the center of Norwegian horticulture, and the sweet fragrance of blooming orchards fills the air. Majestic snow-capped mountain peaks rise above the fjord, and powerful glacial waterfalls such as the famous Vuringfossen, which we have already mentioned, or Lottafossen flow down. Panoramic routes along the fjord, passing through cozy villages and gardens, are especially popular with car tourists and cyclists. Hardanger is considered the heart of Norway and a symbol of the region's natural wealth and cultural identity, where the tradition of gardening and living by the water has been handed down from generation to generation. The feeling of warm spring sunshine, the smell of blossoming apple trees, the hum of waterfalls, the freshness of the fjord water, all this makes Hardanger unforgettable. Risa National Park, Norway is a remote and wild area in northern Norway that is a spectacular combination of deep canyons, powerful rivers, and endless forests. The park is known for its central artery, the Reyselva River, which flows through a deep gorge and is renowned as a habitat for large salmon, attracting enthusiastic fishermen. Canoeing or rafting in the silence of nature is also organized on the river. Forested areas are interspersed with steep cliffs, clear lakes, and mysterious marshes. In the fall, the park's landscape transforms with bright yellows, oranges, and reds. It is home to large predators such as wolverines and lynxes, as well as moose and rare bird species. For travelers, there is a hiking trail through Reyes Gorge with spectacular views of the cliffs and river. Crystal clear Lake Femern, Norway is one of the largest lakes in Norway, located in the east of the country, near the border with Sweden. Lake Femern is famous for its incredible clarity and water clarity, so high that you can see the bottom even at considerable depths. The shores of the lake are dotted with smooth granite stones, polished by the glacier and dense pine groves. This place is favored by lovers of outdoor activities, fishermen, mushroom pickers in autumn, kayakers, and simply those who seek tranquility and unity with nature. At night, in clear weather, you can often observe an incredible starry sky above the lake, and if you are lucky, the reflection of the northern lights in the dark waters. Next to the lake is the eponymous Femensmarka National Park, which protects one of the largest untouched forest areas in Norway and Sweden. The silence here is almost absolute, broken only by the splashing of water against the shore, the sound of wind in the pine trees, and the cries of birds. Trolltunga, Troll's Tongue. Norway is an iconic, dramatic rock that is a thin, horizontal ledge that overhangs some 700 meters above the turquoise waters of Lake Ringedalsvatn. The shape of the ledge resembles a tongue, hence the name, and it has become one of Norway's most popular and recognizable photoshoot locations, attracting tourists from all over the world. The way to Trolltunga is quite a challenging and long hike, about 27 kilometers round trip, taking a full day. The road offers incredible views of majestic mountains, glittering glaciers in the distance, deep mountain valleys, and rushing waterfalls. This place is shrouded in local myths and legends about trolls, who are believed to have hidden here from the sun by turning into stone. The panorama from the tongue is breathtaking, evoking both fear and admiration, and remains in the memory for a lifetime. The sound of the wind at altitude, the feeling of spaciousness and height, the silence after a long ascent, all this creates an unforgettable experience. Mount Storstraken, Norway is one of the most accessible yet incredibly scenic viewpoints with breathtaking views of the famous Fjord. Unlike difficult climbs, the way to the top of Storstraken is relatively easy. The place is very popular with those looking for easy yet incredibly photogenic trekking, with a stunning reward in the form of a view. It's especially beautiful here in the early morning, when soft light colors the fjord and mist drifts down the mountainsides, creating a mystical atmosphere. Storsatraken is ideal for photography and quiet contemplation of Norway's majestic nature, without the need for a grueling climb. The sound of the wind at the top, the fresh mountain air, the silence and beauty all around is inspiring. The tundras of Finnmark, Norway, are vast, untamed expanses in the far north of Norway, above the Arctic Circle, where the rugged, pristine beauty of the Arctic reigns supreme. In summer, there is polar day, and the sun never sets over the horizon, coloring the landscape in delicate golden and pink tones for hours on end. And in winter, there is a polar night when the sky is dark for most of the day, perfect for observing the northern lights. The tundra landscape is low shrubs, soft mosses, and lichens, pleasant to the touch, sweet to reindeer, mysterious bogs and sparse bent trees adapted to the cold and strong winds. The region is historically inhabited by the Sami, the indigenous people of the north, who still practice traditional reindeer husbandry, and herds of reindeer roam these expanses. The tundra is inhabited by wild animals, swift foxes, majestic reindeer, white ptarmigan, which change their plumage according to the seasons. This is an ideal place for those who are looking for a feeling of absolute solitude, boundless space, and true northern silence. The whistling of the wind, the creaking of snow in winter, the sounds made only by animals or birds, the smell of moss and cold earth. All this is about the Finnmark tundra. Dover National Park, Norway is one of Norway's most important national parks, located in the Dovrefjell mountain range. It is one of the few places in Europe where you can find wild musk oxen, powerful, furry animals, a prehistoric species that survived the Ice Age. In spring and summer, Arctic poppies, mountain anemones, and other fragile but bright flowers bloom here, creating a colorful contrast to the gray rocks. For experienced hikers, long overnight tented treks are available, allowing you to fully immerse yourself in the park's atmosphere. Dovre is a symbol of nature's resilience, defiance, and endurance, praised in Norwegian poetry and legends. The smell of lichens and alpine herbs, the sound of wind on the plateau, silence and a sense of antiquity. All this is Dovre. Narvikfjell Gorge, Norway is a narrow and picturesque gorge nestled among high cliffs and rushing rivers near the northern town of Narvik. Despite its proximity to a populated area, the gorge feels like a cut-off land where the harsh nature reigns. Rocks rise almost sheer on both sides of the gorge, creating an impressive corridor while an icy mountain river runs along the bottom of the gorge. In winter, this place is popular among fans of extreme sports, mountaineering and ice climbing on frozen waterfalls and rock walls. In summer, there are hiking trails that allow you to explore the gorge and climb to the heights. The views of the blue fjords in the distance and snowy peaks glistening in the sunshine are breathtaking. This place is perfect for adrenaline seekers, powerful natural scenery, and a sense of isolation from civilization. The sound of the roaring river, the echoes from the cliffs, the freshness of the water, and the coldness of the rock. All of this is Narvik Fjell. 100-year-old spruce trees in the forests of Tyre, Sweden, one of Sweden's oldest and most fascinating coniferous forests, located near the Baltic Sea coast. Many spruce trees here are real giants that have survived dozens of winters and are covered with a thick layer of soft moss and lichens hanging from their branches like gray beards. The forest is filled with a special, deep silence in which only the rustling of the wind in the high crowns, the crackling of branches underfoot, and the singing of rare forest birds can be heard. It's the perfect place to spot wildlife. Red-breasted woodpeckers, mysterious owls, wary foxes, and even majestic moose are easy to spot. In winter, the trees are covered in sparkling frost and fluffy snow, and forest trails lead through snow-covered tunnels between the mighty trunks. Local legends attribute mystical powers to this forest, considering it home to forest spirits and trolls, and believe it protects against evil forces. The smell of pine needles, moss, and damp earth, and the sounds of the forest itself make tour a special place. The granite islands of the Stockholm archipelago, Sweden. Thousands of rocky islands, small and large, scattered across the Baltic Sea off the coast of Stockholm, form one of the largest archipelagos in the world. Their shores are smooth and rounded, as if polished by the giant force of a glacier that passed here thousands of years ago. Some islands are so small that only one old lighthouse or a small fisherman's hut fits on them. Locals reach their summer cottages by boat, the sound of the motor or the splash of oars, and in winter, when the bay freezes over, by ice skates or snowmobiles. There is an atmosphere of absolute solitude, peace, and closeness to the sea nature, especially at sunset, when golden light floods the smooth stones and calm water. The smell of the sea, heated stone, the sound of splashing waves, the cries of seagulls. All this is part of the atmosphere of the archipelago. Lakes and rivers of Värmland, Sweden. Värmland is a region in central Sweden often referred to as the heart of lakes and forests. There are more than 10,000 lakes here, from huge sea-like lakes to small, mysterious lakes hidden in the forests. Each lake has its own face and character. The rivers flowing through the region are full of fish, and locals organize canoeing or rafting trips in the silence of nature, admiring the reflections of trees and sky in the calm water. The lakes nourish misty morning landscapes, the smell of moisture and freshness, reminiscent of fairy tale illustrations. Many lake and river shores are wild, covered with soft mosses, berry bushes, and tall pine trees. Vermland is also famous for its rich folklore and literary heritage. Legends say that forest spirits, lake nymphs, and other mystical creatures live here. The smell of water, forests, moss, and the sounds that only nature makes, all this immerses you in a special atmosphere. Stora Sjöfallet National Park, Sweden is one of Sweden's oldest national parks, founded in 1909 and part of the vast Lapland Nature Area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is a land of majestic mountains and huge glaciers, neighboring vast lakes and wide tundra plains. In winter, there is a long polar night with low temperatures and the chance of seeing the northern lights, and in summer, there is the uninterrupted light of polar day. This is the traditional land of the distinctive Sami culture, whose herds of reindeer still roam the plateaus and mountains. The park protects unique species of flora and fauna adapted to the harsh conditions, including the mighty golden eagle and snowy owl. The landscapes here are both rugged and mesmerizingly majestic, awe-inspiring in their desolation and primordiality. The rock formations of Tunsberg, Norway, are amazing geological shapes created by centuries of glaciers, wind, and water. Located near Norway's oldest city, Tunsberg, these rocks resemble frozen, powerful waves, giant folds of earth, or abstract sculptures molded by nature. The rocks, often gray or reddish from lichens, glow golden in the evening in the setting sun, especially spectacular against the blue sea. Some formations reach tens of meters in height. Traces of ancient engravings and Viking runic inscriptions are often found here, which adds to the historical and mystical atmosphere of the place. The cliffs are favored by rock climbers. You can hear their screams and the screeching of their equipment, and photographers from all over Scandinavia who come here to capture their unique shapes and colors at different times of the day. The smell of the sea, the feel of rough, warm, in the sun stone, the sound of the waves at the foot of the cliffs. All this is about the rocks of Tunsberg. Hema National Park, Finland is a quiet, cozy, and unspoiled natural space located in the southern part of Finland, close to the Baltic Sea coast. The park's landscapes are a gentle mix of dense pine and light birch forests that alternate with mysterious marshy plains and clear lakes. The trails in the park are well equipped, often paved with wooden decks, making the park accessible for walks in any weather. Here you can easily meet wild animals, graceful deer, cautious foxes, nimble hares, and even rare otters and water bodies. The park is especially beautiful in autumn when the leaves of trees burst with fiery colors: yellow, orange, red. Local residents often come here to breathe the clean forest air, listen to the silence which, as they say, heals and calms. The smell of pine needles, fallen leaves, damp earth, and the sounds of the forest all create an atmosphere of calm and restoration. The Åland Islands, Finland is an autonomous region of Finland located in the Baltic Sea between Finland and Sweden, consisting of thousands of islands and skerries. The shores of the islands are lined with smooth red granite and covered with sparse forests of pine and birch trees. There is a special atmosphere of tranquility and slowness here. On many islands, there are almost no cars and people move around on foot, on bicycles or by boat. The climate is milder than on the continent, and nature combines northern severity, harsh granite, and Baltic gentleness, green meadows, calm sea. Many islands have preserved ancient red lighthouses and cozy fishing settlements. Åland is famous for its incredible sunsets, when the sun sinks directly into the sea, coloring the sky and water in golden and pink colors. The smell of the sea, seaweed, heated stone, the sound of waves splashing, all this is about Åland. Lemmenjoki North Forest, Finland is Finland's largest and wildest protected area, located deep in the heart of Lapland on the border with Norway. Lemmenjoki is also known as a place of gold prospectors, here using traditional methods, washing sand in troughs. They still search for gold grains in the rivers. Winters here are long, very cold and magical, with endless snowy plains and the possibility of seeing the northern lights. In summer, you can wander in the forest for weeks without meeting a single person, enjoying absolute silence and solitude. The smell of pine needles, moss, damp earth, clean cold air, silence broken only by the sound of the wind or the crackling of twigs. This is all about Lemmenjoki. The waves of Skagerrak off the coast, Norway, a rough and picturesque stretch of coastline in southern Norway, where the waters of the North Sea, Skagerrak, and the Baltic Sea, Kattegat, meet. Storms and high waves are frequent here, crashing against the rocky shores with a deafening crash and fountains of spray. The coast is dotted with beautiful lighthouses, stoically enduring the blows of the elements, and cozy coastal villages where fishermen still live, connected with the sea. Skagerrak is a lively, dynamic sea. Each of these places is not just a geographical point, it is a reminder of how beautiful, powerful, and diverse the Earth can be, where man hardly interferes with the course of nature or lives in harmony with it. Scandinavia gives a feeling of freedom, spaciousness, purity of air and water, tranquility and ancient power that cannot be conveyed in words, but which remains in the heart. It is as if it invites you to stop, take a deep breath of clean air, breathe out all the fuss and just be. Among ancient fir trees, majestic fjords, mysterious misty hills and boundless snowy plains. These landscapes do not shout about their beauty. They whisper, hum, rustle, creak. And perhaps it is thanks to this quiet, discreet, but profound beauty that they remain in the memory for so long, reminding us of the greatness of the world and our place in it. Thank you for going on this detailed and rich journey with me.